Hello, it's Dr. Robert Weaver. I'm a Harvard trained neuropsychologist, and I'm doing my second or third videotape regarding attention deficit and organizational difficulties known as executive function problems and related emotions that come with not having a very good control over your thinking, your emotions, and your activities or your behavior. And what I wanted to do was to continue with, oh, by the way, I wanted to say thank you for all of those that have responded to my first couple of videotapes and have asked and sent me some really great questions, which I will be answering over the next couple of videos. I love to answer questions, so it's always nice when I get them. So please don't hesitate to get to our website, which is brand new, as I mentioned in my last videotape, www.weavercenter.org. And my email is rweaver@weavercenter.org. And please send me questions, because it's always fun to be answering things that people are really feeling each day. And because we've been operating in the Weaver Center for over 30 years, we've gotten a lot of experience with our areas of expertise. So today's videotape is entitled Freedom Through Independent Ability to Manage One's Attention and Organizational Difficulties. And in my last videotape, we talked about Henry and how well he used some strategies to really markedly change his life in relatively short order with some strategies that in my conversation since that time, we've gone on to discuss various emotional benefits of being in much better control, knowing that he can be in control, using strategies that work in the moment and are not based on consequences, because consequences don't really help us learn very well. So today I wanted to talk about the foundations that we talk to all of our clients about. And in Henry's case, we do this by Skype, and we actually Skype internationally and use FaceTime and so forth. But I wanted to let you know the foundation of my work with Henry, as with all of our clients, is the basis of how our therapies work so well with people that have difficulties with monitoring or regulating or controlling, their thoughts and their verbalizations and their actions and their emotions. And the basis of our therapy is very interesting to our clients, because it explains how our brain works and how we can use our ability to learn to help us operate in the moment. The basis of it is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the basis by which we learn anything. If I were to say, remember truck, potato, and shade, I would then ask, so have you remembered that? Now, when we're doing the tape, of course, you can run it back if you need some extra time or help. But the fact is that that's how fast your mind learns things. You've never heard those same things in order, and your neurons and your neurochemical processes begin to learn things immediately. Now, again, if you don't use them, they deteriorate, but the process of neuroplasticity is very interesting to our clients, because it shows you how quick your mind works and how well you can learn things and how you can apply them in the moment, as opposed to being reliant on consequences, positive or negative. So, and for folks that are older, maybe you have them remember things like theory and intuition and just more difficult words, but still, the whole idea is to have about 3 units of things to remember. And then once you find out that someone's got those 3 things, you say, well, if I wanted to ask you those in 5 or 10 minutes, what might you do? And people will often report, well, I'd say them over again, or I'd visualize them, or I would repeat and repeat and repeat, or I would just use the first letters, as a mnemonic to remember different things. So, or I would associate to things that I know that I've enjoyed with those things. So every time that you begin to develop a context for what you're learning, those neurological systems begin to build and build and build and congeal and congeal and congeal so that they become more and more permanent. If I were to say, well, listen, let's say I wanted you to tell me those in a month, what might you do? And it might be writing them down or picturing or drawing or using Quizlet or something to, really remember those things. And you could also use some motivation. I'll tell you what. Let's have you earn something for that. What would you like to earn? But anyway, that's a separate issue. But there's lots of ways of developing more and more neurological context for learning. Now, what we then begin to say is that when we talk about strategies that work in the moment, the more you use them, the more you think about them, the more you apply them, the more they become automatic. And when you are starting to work on strategies that allow you to be independent and autonomous from others by controlling yourselves and your thinking and your emotions and so forth, when you can better manage those things, then you will have better control over your relationships, over your activities with parents, socially, academically. You will be able to manage yourself much more independently and have much less conflict from the outside. By its very nature, if you have regulatory difficulties in attention and organization and so forth, and we know that high interest, you overfocus, and in low interest, you really have very, very, very difficult times. The more you can use these strategies in those things that create difficulties for you, as it did with Henry, the more you feel in charge, in control. This is something like you're taking your brain to the gym to learn these things. And even though it feels like it's kind of a complicated process, it's really very simple. It's how we learn everything or anything. And the more you practice, as you know, the more you use it. And, take driving a car, for example. At the very beginning, you're paying all this attention and just developing the skills on all these different things that you got to do. But, after a little while, it becomes more and more automatic. And that's exactly what we want these strategies to become for people that struggle with managing themselves and their thinking and their behavior. So once this is a foundation and it creates some excitement with all of our clients, who doesn't like thinking about taking their mind to their gym, controlling their activities, not being in trouble, being able to initiate and start things, complete things? This is very, very attractive to the folks that we work with. So this is what happened with Henry, and that's why I called this kind of part 2 of working with Henry, which, as I say, we do over Skype, where we start with things that are so critical, like do it now. Okay? The more you say to yourself, do it now, the more mnemonics you have about do it now, the more you say that during the day, do it now, then you can begin to say every time that you say, I'll do it in a minute or I'll do it later, it means you intend to do it, but you never get to it or rarely get to it. So doing things now and having that be a staple of your thinking allows you to get started on things, to do things of low interest. Started on homework, started on chores, started on getting your reports done if you're a professional, starting on getting your billing done if you're a professional. All of these paperwork things that are of lower interest are really a tough thing to get to unless you have strategies that allow you to get over that natural hump to be distracted to one thing or another. Do it now. And every time you do it now, it feels pretty good that you actually did something that was on your mind right at the moment, not based on consequences, not based on, that'll be really terrific for me, or gee, I'll get in trouble. Those things don't work for us very well. Everything has its place. The more you say everything has its place, and the more you put everything that you have in its own place so that it's very dependable. You don't have to use poor memory skills to try to remember where you put things. Losing things is a big part of our difficulties. I think I've heard, Henry and others say that they spend a great deal of their time looking for things. Well, these strategies really cut down on that, and the stress and the self-criticism and the potential problems that you get from other people that you're having relationships with. So that's a very important thing to be able to do, to control yourself and to reduce all of the conflicts that you have both with yourself and with others around you. Touchdown. We talked about that with Henry. Every time you touch something and you put it down, right, you're paying attention to where you're putting something. And every time you say touchdown and you put something down and you feel it with your fingers, just like this when you put it down, the chances of not remembering where you put it are far, far, far less, or more, or less. But anyway, you do it a lot better. And these kinds of things, when you start to have them be part of your internal thinking and earn internal strategies that work in the moment, you have much more control over your lives. The more control you have, the less you're worried about things, the less self-critical you are, the more confidence you have because you can control things that you didn't really think you could. And these things in a relatively short period can make a substantial solutions in one's life. So I hope you've enjoyed this. It was really great to be able to talk with you directly. Again, have all the comments, have the comments on the Weaver Center website. And I will look forward to the next videotape, which will get into some of the more emotional issues of having attention and organization issues, and how relieving it is when you have strategies that work for you. All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Bye-bye.